There are three big misconceptions about Pakistan that I'd like to talk about. The first thing is our nuclear assets. Now, there is a feeling in the Western world that our nuclear assets are vulnerable to jihadis. This presupposes the fact that Pakistan's nuclear assets are not well protected. Well, I'd like to put something on the record for this. First of all, that Pakistan has a very special force drawn not as a volunteer group but selected group from the army, which is created as a special group called the Special Projects Division, SPD, which actually looks after the protection of these nuclear assets. And not only the nuclear assets, but all the nuclear laboratories, the nuclear reactors, etc., the nuclear material, wherever they are stored. Beyond that, you know that it's just not a question of taking over the nuclear assets. There are all nuclear materials, so whether missiles and all, have certain codes, certain technological equipment which has to be accessed and which has to be controlled. Now, we have a very strict command and control mechanism which is in place, and which actually really came about and was which became a fact after the AQ Khan network got unearthed, of which Pakistan is as big a victim as anybody else, because they did not realize that AQ Khan, who had been given carte blanche to get access to nuclear materials, had started using this for his own. The last point which I have is that, you know, the feeling that there may be supporters within the government or within the you know, where the nuclear material is stored, or the missiles, or which have got jihadi sympathizers. I think that nobody really, this is just a conjecture, nobody really has found out even one person in all these years who has been targeted as or been identified as a jihadi supporter. Yes, it is a fact that from time to time vetting is done properly before they're taking in, and then vetting is done, ongoing vetting process, to ensure that anybody who shows an inclination or tendency towards that is kept out of the loop. I think that is the first major misconception. This is Pakistan. Pakistan's nuclear assets are very safe. They're as safe as anywhere else in the world. That goes without saying. The second big misconception is that Pakistan as a state is an exporter of terror. Now, there's no doubt, and there's no denying the fact that Pakistan now is a repository of terror, in the sense that ground zero of terror is in the border areas of Pakistan. Al-Qaeda exists there. Now, the Pakistan Army is engaged in a counterinsurgency campaign. The Pakistan ISI, which is blamed mostly for it, is drawn mostly from the Pakistan Army. It would be incongruous that an army which is suffering casualties at the rate of 10 or 11 to that of coalition troops in Afghanistan, that is, for every person who dies in Afghanistan, whether he be a US or a NATO force person or an Afghan, for every person, 11 Pakistanis in the armed forces are being killed, will actually give help to forces that will come and attack their own kith and kin and themselves. The most of the targets, in fact, if you look at the targets that have been attacked in Pakistan, there are more targets that have been attacked by the terrorists in Afghanistan than been targeted by the Taliban, who are, by the way, not terrorists in that sense. They're fighting a civil war, and they are quite different from the Al-Qaeda that is targeting not only the world but Pakistan in general. So I think that is incongruous, and I think that speaks for itself. How could anybody be actually giving help or material to the forces that are attacking it per se? The third misconception is about Pakistan being a failed state. I think this is you know, gone on far enough in that sense. In the sense, if you come to Pakistan, you will see that Pakistan is very much a functioning state. On the one hand, it is a nuclear state. It has the nuclear material. It has the wherewithal to you know, deliver it. It has a functioning army which is engaged in a counterinsurgency. It has state institutions. It has a very active judiciary. It has a very free press. It has a very, you know, out of 170 million people, there are 60 to 70 million mobile telephones. There are advanced processes which are there functioning as far as the utilities are concerned, whether it's water, sewerage, electricity. So I think basically, I think this also is one of the canards which have been bandied about, that Pakistan is on the way of being a failed state. I like to quote David Kilcullen on this, who in March or April 2009 famously declared that in 6 months' time Pakistan may cease to exist as a state. That to quote Mark Twain, the rumors of our demise are greatly exaggerated. Pakistan is far from being a failed state. I think there are other big misconceptions, but these give rise to misconceptions within the people of Pakistan. People think that these are, if the West is thinking that, then there must be a conspiracy against Pakistan. So I think conspiracy theories and misconceptions cut both ways, but as far as the three biggest misconceptions about Pakistan, I think very correctly one can say that these are misconceptions and these are not the truth. Thank you.